Whether we expect a language to be easy, difficult, or somewhere in the middle, there's 4 questions that you should always ask before you start learning a new language. Hi, I'm Lindsay, a language learning expert passionate about helping you learn languages better. And in this video, I'm going to share those 4 questions with you. But before we begin, I've got something that will help you regardless of which language you're learning. If you're at the start, you don't want to spend hours looking for the right resource, just get my free Ultimate Language Resource list. It's huge, covers over 150 languages, and yeah, you're going to definitely find something that you will find useful there. It's lindsaydoeslanguages.com/list to get your hands on that. So then, what are the 4 questions to always ask yourself before learning a new language? Question number 1, what's your native language? There we go. You probably know the answer. This one won't take long to answer, but it is really important that you consider it because your native language is going to impact the language that you choose to learn and how easy or difficult that process is going to be. For example, the Foreign Service Institute language rankings that I mentioned in the previous video, that is from an English native speaker perspective. If you are a Hindi speaker, learning Urdu, a category 3 language on that list, is not going to take you over 1,000 hours. So, especially if English isn't your native language, see if you can find a ranking list that is relevant for you, that doesn't just rely on English being the default. Question number 2, what other languages do you already know? So, Japanese, often considered one of the most difficult languages to learn, but if you already know Chinese and you can read the kanji, even if you don't know how to pronounce them, but you know the meaning, you've got a leg up on everyone starting from 0. Equally, if you've studied Spanish before starting Portuguese or Italian, you've got a leg up too. However, one thing I will say here is that if you're now about to learn a similar language to another language that you know, you do want to watch out for language mixing or blending because you're obviously going to want to keep things as separate as possible. It's not a mistake. It's not the end of the world if you accidentally say a Spanish word when you're speaking Portuguese or Italian, but it is something that you want to be a little bit more aware of than if it's a completely different language to what you already know, because that interference is probably less likely to happen. Question number 3, what is your reason for learning? Now, this all really comes down to motivation because your reason is going to be highly personal. And really, we can categorize your reason into one of 2 things, a want or a need, or possibly a little Venn diagram, both. It doesn't matter about that motivation, whether it's a want or a need, whether it is something that is a considered typically big reason or something that someone might laugh at because it sounds so silly and trivial, but it means a lot to you. It doesn't matter. If it's big enough for you, it is enough motivation to get you started. Because if you're highly motivated, it does not matter how difficult or easy that language is supposed to be, quote unquote, it's going to be easier for you. If you're learning a so-called easy language and expecting it to be easy and therefore not really feeling very motivated, it's going to be a slog. And knowing your reason really helps with your motivation. When I know that my reason for learning is something like a 2-week trip in a country, then I know not to stress out too much if I forget a word here or there, or if I don't get too far in the course book, because it's 2 weeks. It's not the end of the world. So knowing your reason and your motivation is really going to help to just put things into your perspective, not the broad perspective of what you think it should look like. And finally, question number 4, what do you have available? You can learn a language with any resource. I'll show you how to do this in Language Life. This is the kind of thing we do together so that you can learn a language better for yourself, regardless of what you have available. That said, it's always nice when there's something solid and reliable and good to work with. So for a French speaker, on paper, a French Creole language may be linguistically similar and considered easier. But if we consider access to resources, perhaps Japanese actually becomes a little less difficult. Not to say it can't be done, but if you're relying on scraps of old PDFs with no audio, things might be a little bit harder than if you've got real solid set of good resources to work with. But like I say, you can learn a language with any resource. I can help you do this, but it will be easier if you've got something reliable that you can use. The reason I'm so passionate about adding that caveat that it is possible is that when I learned Guarani, I didn't have much to begin with, especially when it comes to speaking and audio. My resources were very, very limited. That meant that I really had to pay attention to what I did have and almost treat every little scrappy resource like a sponge full of water, right? I was really wringing out everything that I could from that. Now, if I was learning a language with lots of resources, I might have just given it a little squeeze, got a little something from it, and moved on to something else. But because I had less, I was really making sure to take everything I could from it. So meticulously reading a pronunciation guide rather than glancing at it, watching a video, then listening to a podcast. Really taking in what I could with what I had. And I have to say, I think I did a pretty good job. So there we have it, the 4 questions to ask yourself before you start learning any language to make sure that you're making the right choice. You know for yourself how easy or difficult you can expect this experience to be, and that you can go into it with the right frame of mind. If you're about to start learning a language, I have something to help. It is my ultimate language resource list. It is huge, it is beautiful and in Airtable and lovely to look at and use, and you can filter and sort and see everything depending on level or the type of resource, and then go direct to the link. It's so good, if I say so myself. There's resources there for over 150 languages. You can get access to this for free at lindsaydoeslanguages.com/list. And I hope you enjoy. As always, thank you for watching. And if you found this helpful, hit like, subscribe, and tell a friend so we can all learn languages better.